Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the fall of Rick and Morty. For those of you who don't know, Rick and Morty was kind of like this sci-fi adult animated comedy focusing on a grandpa Rick and his son Morty, and it features a lot of exciting extras like Summer, the mom, dad, who's Jerry, and oh my God, I forgot what the mom's name was. But essentially it was like this really fun animated comedy, and it kind of like to spin tropes on its head and do like some really different stuff. And it was considered to be one of the comebacks of adult animation. It was something new, it was something different, it was something fresh. As a fan of adult animation, when I first started coming out, I absolutely adored this show because it was like I love dark, quick humor, and it delivered that in spades. And so I was a really big fan of this show. It began getting popularity because of this humor, this unique sense of like science fiction, complex character dynamics, and like this really kind of gritty humor. And so we captivated audiences because of course it would. Who doesn't like stuff like that? But with the rise of like popularity came the downside that the fans that were coming in kept getting higher and higher expectations for the show. And the show, to me personally, wasn't able to hit those high expectations, especially in the later seasons. Like I've watched Rick and Morty from season one to this current season. Well, I've seen like the first seasons, I watched those like at least 5 times. And these newer seasons, I tried to watch through, but this current season, I was like, I couldn't get through more than 3 episodes before I had to turn it off because it was missing something. It didn't have its original appeal, and I think that's primarily because one of the creators, his name is Justin Roiland, he was charged and arrested for domestic battery. As I can't comment on that because I'm not a lawyer, and do I need to say allegedly? But yeah, and so yeah, so he did that, and then or allegedly did that because um moving forward, the show was missing one of those key components. But not only that, was I feel like the creators of the show were experiencing more burnout, creative burnout, as is expected. Like writers have to do a lot to make a show dynamic, to make it fun. Also support the writer strike. I don't know if I said this in my past videos. I support it, and I believe they should be getting paid a livable wage, if not more than a livable wage, because you shouldn't be waiting like getting a paycheck just to be able to live. You should be getting a paycheck to enjoy life. So I'm supporting them in that. But back to the topic, for writers to create such dynamic shows, they need to really be creative, be looking at pulling out all the stops, looking at all the angles of it. And I think the show did that in the first seasons. That's why you're able like to rewatch it and be like, oh, I didn't see that, or oh, this is really cool that. But after a while, like you can't keep throwing out bangers. I say the longer a show goes on, the worse it's going to get, because writers aren't able to maintain that same quality that they did in the beginning because they no longer have that vision that they initially set out with. So of course the show was already in its downfall before Roiland got arrested. But after his departure from the show, as it should be, but after departure from the show really couldn't hold itself together, even though it was already kind of falling apart. Another thing was its reliance on like certain themes and tropes. Like it fell into Rick's personality kind of fell into more, not even more nihilistic, but I feel like his character kind of went from being like a grandpa that's smart to like an ego driven kind of, well, he was always ego driven and narcissistic, but I feel like his character as the show progressed became bigger and bigger. And so it's like once you write a character to be so big, at some point, how are they being defeated? It's hard, like it's not hard to watch, but it's like I can't keep watching him get out of every situation scot-free. In the beginning, he didn't get out of every situation. And I know in some of these later seasons, they tried to show him not getting away with everything, but then it's at the same time, like you built him up to this level. And so you're taking him down a peg. So you're retroactively ruining the character. But not only that, they tended to rely on certain themes that I thought were just repetitive. Not only that, but the meta-ness that the show has become now is so annoying. I think meta humor was funny, but now it's coming to a point, it's getting so oversaturated, which I'm making a YouTube video on about oversaturation of tropes, but it's getting so oversaturated that like you can't even like enjoy a good comedy without someone getting adult comedy without someone getting too meta. I think The Simpsons fell prey to this. Family Guy's kind of been prey to it, but because their show was more built around it, it works better. Rick and Morty is falling to it. Once you get to that level of like referring to yourself in the metaverse or whatever, it's kind of frustrating, and they relied on it too heavily. And not to mention, I think there was some controversy besides the creator getting arrested between the creators and the fandom, because the fans had a lot to say on what the direction they wanted the show to go into. And I feel like ego plays a role into some creators things. I mean, the fans probably took it too far, but ego really does play a role. Also making a video on that, like every time I say something and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm making a video on that in the future. But I think ego played a role into it, because I feel that creators, writers, directors, oftentimes either they rely too much on the fans' input or they don't rely on it at all. And both of those outcomes don't lend to a really good show. In the end, it ends up falling down and becoming worse. Star versus the Forces Evil fell to this because they listened too much to it. But I think Rick and Morty did the opposite, where they didn't listen enough to their fans, or maybe they did. I'm not behind the scenes, but I feel as though they didn't listen to their fans on certain takes, and they were like, oh no, this is our vision, this is how we want to see it play out. And then it ended up not being great. I remember one episode of Rick and Morty where it was like, I think the show, it was like a heist, but it was like a meta heist and stuff. And it's just like, okay, we get it. It's meta enough. And I know that fans were not happy with that. Fans were not happy with a lot of the episodes from the new season. I stopped watching altogether. May this be the last season of Rick and Morty. May they not produce anymore. Not to wish evil on the people working behind the scenes and stuff. Like, I know that the implications of people getting fired is a lot more than just them losing their jobs. Like, it has impacts on their lives. But I just mean in the sense that I hope they find better opportunities to work on shows that are not crumbling to dust as we speak. It's so interesting to see the downfall of Rick and Morty, because I thought this was going to be one of the top hitters of adult animation for not centuries like what, 100 years, decade maybe. Like, I thought it was going to be up there on the pedestal, but fortunately it's fallen far. Let me know what y'all think about it. Please don't get too crazy in the comments, because you will be blocked. All right now I only have 3 followers, but I will block. I don't care if I have 3 followers for the rest of my YouTube channel live, but any rude, hateful comments will be blocked. I like Rick and Morty, but Rick and Morty's falling. You got to look at the facts. Let's not be delusional. Comment what you think about Rick and Morty. Do you think it's fallen from grace? Do you think it can make a comeback? It probably won't, because its creator got arrested. But say they find new people, showrunners, to do it. Do you think it could get back to its original glory? Do you think the fans had a role to play in its downfall? Like, what do you think caused Rick and Morty to not be that great? If you think it's still great, let me know why you think it's still great. I'm genuinely curious. Like, open conversation. My page is dedicated to talking about books and movies, so let's discuss. But let's not discuss too crazy now. Like, let's keep it respectful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. And if you don't, I mean, these bills gonna pay themselves somehow. So, bye.